All right, guys, UFC 330 now in the books. It's all said and done. We're done in Philadelphia. You know the tradition has to continue, though. The great man, Aaron Bronstetter, joins me late night from his hotel room after a great job of covering the event, obviously, the fight week, the post-fight interviews, AB, another great week of MMA in the books for you.
Absolutely. And Philadelphia is a great city. It's been a long time since they were last here for a numbered event. It was like Tito Ortiz versus Rashad Evans last time they had a numbered event
It was
here.
the last time. Damn,
Yeah,
man.
a long time ago. So I mean, they apparently blew the arena gate record out of the water tonight. So by $2 million, like it was like a $6.8 million gate or something like that, and the next highest was like 2 million less than men's. So a very successful event for the UFC tonight.
Fuck, I would kill to go to Philly, man, just to watch UFC there or a pro wrestling show there. Or I'd love to watch, obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers. That's going to be such an interesting basketball season now that the Celtics effed everything up. And LeBron James is now in the city, although he doesn't live there. Let's talk about the whole card in general, but start off in the main event, dude. Look, we all spoke about it. It was going to go one of two ways. Islam Makhachev was going to go out there and dominate from the start, or Ian Garry was going to make this a drawn-out, longer affair, ultimately finishing in a decision. It went the second scenario. We saw some good moments from Ian Garry. We saw some good moments from Islam Makhachev. How would you conclude this fight as a whole now that you've had a few minutes to think about it in your hotel room?
Yeah, this fight went pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to go. I thought, it seemed like a lot of people didn't like the fight, but personally, I thought it was a great fight. I thought that it was just really high level problem solving. And it was, again, what I kind of expected it to be. Two guys that are very risk averse, that are very good defensively and are very strategic fighters. I didn't think that any of them were going to do, really put themselves out there and take big risks to try to win the fight. Although I would argue maybe Ian Machado Garry should have done a little bit more of that in this fight. But it was kind of what I expected. They were going to make reads, and just the person who was more sharp that night was going to win. And I thought Islam had more advantages in this fight. Figured that him winning by decision was the most likely outcome, and that's how it transpired.
Let's get into that for a second. Ian Garry took a moment to get going. What did you think? Because I was like, dude, if we saw some of this stuff earlier in the fight in these first two rounds, could have been a different conclusion there. How different do you think it would have played out if Ian Garry got going a little earlier in this one?
I'm not sure it would have played it all that much differently, to be honest. I think that Islam was definitely at the peak of his powers early on in the fight. And I think the reason why Ian was so successful down the stretch is because by then, Ian had made his reads. Islam was tired. His energy was a little bit zapped, and he wasn't able to have the same sort of entries as he had early in the fight, where he was able to take him down. Plus, he landed that big head kick in the second round, knocking Ian Machado Garry down, which was the biggest moment of the fight. But I thought that Ian started to build, and Ian tends to be a bit of a builder in fights, where he gets better and better as the fight goes on. He's made his reads, he's made his adjustments, and unfortunately for him, it was just a little bit too late. By the time he was able to get things going, Islam was already too far up on the cards. Even if he would have won the fifth round, he still would have lost the split decision. So I think that, unfortunately for him, Islam was just a step ahead of him tonight. These are two of the most high-level thinkers in the game. Massively high fight IQ for both of them. And it was really kind of a masterful chess match between the two. And it was going to be sort of who blinks first. And neither really blinked. They were just both really at the top of their game. And that's what I really liked about the fight. I think both of them are really talented.
Ian Garry is such a character, man. In between the rounds, he was almost hugging Islam Makhachev, giving him pats on the head. This is from MMA Fighting. This is what Dana White had to say on the matter just before in the press conference.
5 minutes ago, if you'd have come out of that fucking corner like a raging fucking bull, we might be having a different conversation right now.
Do you feel like Ian's too nice to his opponents? At the press conference, he wanted to build Islam up. He's been nice about him all week.
I think that Ian's a classy guy is what I think. And, he always shows class. He did, before the fight, he goes over and shakes, all the corners' hands and all that stuff. It's great. But when that fucking bell rings, you got to switch. You got to switch all that shit off and go. And you definitely got to do it in the fifth round after he fought a great fight against Islam, who, everybody in this room and everybody else is saying, well, we might start talking about GOAT.
So Dana White AB says, you got to come out. You got to come out in that 5th round. You got to forget about shaking hands. And spoke about maybe he's too nice to his opponents. What do you make of the way that Ian was in this fight, the respect that he showed Islam Makhachev? And do you feel there's any truth to anything that Dana White said?
Well, I think the one thing that Dana got wrong there is like even if Ian was completely shot out of Canada in the 5th round and dominated the 5th round, like he still would have lost the split decision. So I don't know. I mean, unless he would have gotten the finish, and I mean, to get a finish against Islam, I think is easier said than done. But I do think that he does have a good point where, like, you're facing the pound for pound best fighter in the sport. It's okay to be reverential and stuff at the press conference and be a nice guy, but once that cage door closes, I think he probably could have had a different mentality, and I don't know if it would have paid off. I think that maybe if he does come out a little bit more aggressive, Islam Makhachev could take more advantage of that. I don't think that aggression has ever been Ian Machado Gary's strong suit. I think his strong suit has always been just being able to outsmart his opponents and make good reads. But again, against somebody as good as Islam, that can take a little bit longer than it does against most fighters. And in this situation, by the time that he had gotten the read on Islam, it was too late. Like Islam was up.
All right, so let's talk about Ian Garry's future before we could continue talking about Islam Makhachev. He said in the post-fight speech in the Octagon, he's 28 years old. He'll be back. What do you think? Do you see someone that you believe will hold gold in the division one day in the future? Or is it a situation where this is such a tough division, nothing's really guaranteed?
Well, nothing's guaranteed, but I do think that he will get back into a title fight at some point in time. I just think he's that good. I mean, you look at what he did to Carlos Proch, and now Proch is potentially next in line for the title. And that fight didn't even look that difficult for him. I mean, the 5th round, was when he was in a little bit of trouble, but most of the fight he was able to make those reads, make those adjustments, and win that fight pretty handily. So I think that, I don't think we've seen the last of Ian Machado Gary fighting for a championship. Problem is, like, his fight style is just not all that exciting. And that's always going to play a role in whether or not you're going to get a title shot. You need to be impressive. Otherwise, they'll just keep delaying that. And that's the one concern I have with him. But I still think that he's such a high-level fighter that he will work his way back there at some point in time.
And also improve as he goes. And he showed some improvements even tonight. Let's talk about 170 for Islam Makhachev. I mean, Joe Rogan brought it out throughout the broadcast, just the size difference. It's just a different weight class versus 155, where Islam Makhachev was able to basically crush and dominate. It's a different type of fight for him at 170. These guys are bigger. They can take the shots. They're harder to wrestle. They're harder to submit. They're harder to dominate. So I guess after tonight, there's a lot of people wondering, okay, 170 for Islam. Maybe this isn't as easy as we thought after JDM. What was your conclusion seeing Islam handle someone Gary's size, a true welterweight, I suppose?
Yeah, but I mean, that's what makes it more impressive, right? Like, if he's a natural 55er, he's moving up a division, he's defending the title in 2 divisions, and now facing these bigger guys, these monsters. I mean, Morales is undefeated. He's huge. I saw Morales backstage today.
Yeah, what did he look like, man?
And
Give
he
us
made
the
weight
scoop.
yesterday. Like, he looks like he weighs like 215 pounds today. He's a monstrous guy. So when you have like a guy like that, who we haven't seen that many flaws so far, like, he's going to be a difficult guy to break down for Islam. Like, I would like to see him fight for the title next. I think that would be the more intriguing matchup. He did make weight as the backup. I don't know if that means he's next. Proch says he's next, but personally, I think the more intriguing matchup is Morales.
I do wonder, yeah, there's Morales there. I mean, I agree with you. I think Morales would be a fascinating challenge for Islam Makhachev. Who else do you think in the division, after what you saw, some of the trouble that Islam Makhachev had, who else do you think in the division would make a challenging sort of opponent for Islam during this reign?
I'm going to just move my face up a little bit more to the camera so I can see.
You mentioned Morales. He's there. Carlos Prates is an interesting one because Prates he's a big guy, 6'1". He has the reach. The only problem is the wrestling, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes me wonder.
But he's got the power. And I mean, as long as he's able to survive the wrestling early from Islam, we saw that he got a little bit tired as it went down. And when that happens against a guy who's as aggressive as Carlos Prates, I think that can be a a difficult situation if you get into those deep waters against someone as aggressive and dangerous as he is. So he's an interesting one for sure. I think Bonfim is facing Sean Brady. They announced tonight in a main event in November at the Apex. So that's an interesting matchup. That's Bonfim and Brady. That's an interesting matchup down the road for the division. So I think that there's a lot of fighters that are coming up right now, and we'll see how they fare. But right now, I think you've got Prochas ahead of you. You've got Morales ahead of you. We don't know what's happening with Shavkat. He's kind of the X
That's
factor
the big question.
Here. Yeah. Like if he comes back and looks good in his return, I wouldn't put him right into a title fight right away. But if he has a return fight and looks really good, now he gets in the mix and he's even bigger than those other guys. So, there's a lot of interesting options going forward. But I think if Islam can beat those three guys, depending on Shavkat again, how he comes back or whatever, but if he can beat Prochas, Morales, and Shavkat, like who's going to deny that he's the best of all time if that's how he finishes out his career?
Absolutely. I mean, these are some tough challenges. Islam Makhachev is just creating a crazy legacy. It was crazy, AB. I was having a chat with Danny Segura just initially after the main event finished, and I was thinking, I love the challenges that Islam Makhachev has at welterweight. I almost feel like it's more interesting now after what we saw with Ian Garry. I think about lightweight though, and I know he'll never return there, but I was just thinking the matchups we could have had right now with Islam Makhachev at lightweight, and those include Ilia Topuria, Paddy Pimblett, those include Arman Sarukian, those include like all these guys. I'm like, oh my God, the fights we could have had in that division with Islam Makhachev. But at least we get him at welterweight. What do you think this win does for his legacy?
Yeah, it's just another notch on the belt, right? Like, I mean, he becomes one of 5 to defend titles in 2 divisions, and he is now the all-time record holder for the most consecutive wins. So, I mean, he's rolling right now, and he said he wants to keep going. So, if he can keep this up, and I kind of agree with what Dana said in the post-fight press conference when people are talking about is he the greatest or where does he rank? Let's see what the big picture is. Let's see what we don't really need to talk about it that much now. Let's wait and see how the dust settles once his career ends and he decides to hang it up. Like if he continues to win and never loses from here on out and wins 3 or 4 more fights, I think he'll be right up there. Maybe the best of all time.
Yeah, I wonder what he's going to look like for the next fight as well, because they'll be trying to make some adjustments as well, knowing some of the issues that they're having with the bigger size and weight and stuff. But dude, it'll be crazy if he gets to that 20 number, right? Do you think he's one of the best though double sort of champs of all time in terms of legacies? Because we've had some double champs, like we've had DC, for example. He was a great double champ. Of course, he never actually beat John Jones for that title at 205. We had Henry Cejudo. He beat Dominic Cruz, right? But this was a Cruz coming off injury. Obviously, Conor McGregor had both belts, but didn't really get the title defenses under his belt. Ilia Topuria as well didn't really get a chance to hang around. So does this make Islam Makhachev maybe the most impressive double champ in UFC history? Who else do we have there?
Amanda Nunes is the one that's giving me a little bit of pause, but she was the second division that she was the champion. It was like didn't even exist anymore. It was kind of a phantom
strength
division.
Of competition, right? Like 2 of the hardest divisions for Islam Makhachev with the biggest killers. Is what he has to do.
So I think that he might be the best if you look at it already. Like he's already defended in 2 divisions, which is very difficult to do. There was nobody where you're like, oh, I wish I could have seen how he would do. Even though Gaethje's the champion now, like, do you think that he would have had trouble with Justin Gaethje? Like, I don't personally think.
But then that's another fun fight. That's another fun fight. If he was still at 55.
Yeah,
like all these fun fights. So many fun fights.
What I mean is like he's fighting good contenders. He's winning in dominant fashion a lot of the time. So, I think that of the double champs, he might already have the best resume. He also doing it in like maybe the 2 hardest divisions. If you look at the people that have been, other than maybe Ilia, but Ilia never defended at 55.
Yeah, it just makes everything that he's done even more impressive. All right, let's talk about the co-main event just quickly with Mackenzie Dern. Another situation where maybe she wins, but maybe some of the fans are a little bit negative about the win because in the first few rounds, AB, Mackenzie looked explosive. Her striking looked crisp. She looked like an absolute dominator. But of course, towards the end of the fight, she got a little bit tired and it kind of took away some of the shine from her win. What can you take away from this victory for Dern? Because for me, I saw definite improvements, right? I'm excited to see what's next for her as the champion. But at the same time, I feel like there were moments there where if she would have just gotten that submission, dude, it would have been a different conversation that we'd be having and the fans reacting to that win.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with this particular matchup, and like as much as I want to be more biased towards the Canadian or root for the Canadian, my initial thought ended up panning out, which was like I just felt like Gillian Robertson was like Mackenzie Dern light. Like everything that Gillian Robertson's good at, Mackenzie's better at. And that's kind of how it played out. So what I'd like to see is her against like a more competent striker, because that's always been her kryptonite, is when she faces these big hitting strikers like the Amanda Lemos of the world, Andrade, those kind of fighters. That's where she's had her difficulty. So to put her against somebody who has a very similar skill set to her, don't know if it does her any favors, but I'd like to see her and Weili. I think that's kind of where we'll really see what she's all about.
Anything that you saw tonight from Dern? No, you're all good. Anything that you saw tonight from Dern that changes your mind about how the Weili fight goes?
The only thing that changes my mind, though, it's not really changes my mind, but the only thing that I think are going to be factors is that Weili, I think, is 38 years old now. Maybe it's going to be 39, I think, soon. I might be wrong on that, but she's in that area code. Coming off a loss to Shevchenko where she got kind of handled, especially on the ground. I think that Mackenzie's making improvements for sure. I think that was very visible today. So I think it could be one of those situations where like someone who was great kind of ages out a little bit, and then the fighter that's gotten better ends up getting them at the right time. So that it's a thing that could happen, but I still would favor Zhang Weili in that fight.
I will say that I think that's almost a situation Islam Makhachev is going to find himself over the next couple of years as well, right? As we're going to 35, 36. Who knows? Maybe a 37. I only say 37 because he doesn't fight that frequently. So we'd probably get 1 or 2 fights and he wants to get to that 20. And I think, yeah, exactly like you said, hopefully, what are you hearing about Weili? Why are we not hearing about her future in returning to that division?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with Weili or why she's not available, what's happening. I don't know if it's a visa issue thing. I don't know if it's like she just wants to take a break because, she's just, tried to move up and chase greatness, and maybe doesn't feel like she has that much urgency to win back the title she held for a while, right? Like maybe she just wants to take it easy for a little bit and decide what she wants to do, see where the dominoes fall a little bit. So I don't know what the exact reason is, but I would like to see her fight Mackenzie Dern. I think should be the next fight at strawweight. And if it's not her, it's like, then who? Is it Tatiana Suarez? Is that a fight that people want to see against Dern because it's 2 high-level grapplers? But I think Weili is probably the one that more people would want to see.
Speaking of chasing greatness, AB, I just want to thank my sponsors, Zapply T1, for helping me chase my greatness. You guys can get 50% off with the code word submission. That link is in the description below. Jump on Zapply right now. They're helping me feel good during this interview after a long day. Check out Zapply T1 right now. And thank you so much for supporting the program. AB, by the way, I mean, the card itself had some fun fights and finishes. What about Jalen Turner, huh? I think he was one of the really bright spots on the main card. I mean, we had a few of them, but obviously we weren't sure about his fighting future. He looked fantastic tonight. What was your read on Jalen Turner, this performance that we had? I think at one point, all of us were looking at this guy as potentially the future of the division. He's looking sharp as ever.
Yeah, that was the standout performance of the night for sure. Cowboy Fernandez is no joke. That guy throws vicious leg kicks. I thought that with the guay in Jalen Turner, who's kind of long, lanky, has thin legs, that Cowboy Fernandez could just chew him up. But Jalen Turner had the answer for him, and that fight ended very quickly. And it makes you very excited to see what Jalen Turner, like, I think you just throw him right back into the mix at 155. He was ranked at one point in time. So I think you start putting him up against those kind of fighters again. I think that he's right there.
It was a big finish for him. How do you think he fits in with this like version of the division though? Because just killers everywhere. Usman's about to come in. It's up from everything we saw this week with the anatomy of a fighter. It looks everything but a done deal, right?
And they showed him on the broadcast today also.
They showed him on the broadcast.
Yeah. I think Jalen Turner should be fighting some of the guys that are in like the bottom part of that top 15. I don't think that you put him against an Usman or Nurmagomedov or anybody that's high up just yet. But I think that, if you put him up against, is it Tom Nolan's at 155? Like that kind of a
that would
name,
be great.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Like I think Quillen Salkeld is kind of beyond that area now. But I think
Yeah.
that you look at the lower part of that top 15. I think there's a lot of good matches for him in there.
Mm. No, I agree with you, man. But no, I'm happy to see Turner do his thing, sort of get his feet under him and get it done. What else sort of impressed you from today that stood out to you, AB?
Well, Charles Johnson was phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a very Charles Johnson fight. Lots of awkwardness, some weird moments. He gets knocked down in the second. This kid Chapolin is really good. I watched him on The Ultimate Fighter. He also won on Contender Series, trains with Daniel Cormier and a lot of the really good fighters that they have over there right now. Um, I honestly thought Chapolin was going to win that fight. That's how the kind of high regard I have. Obviously, on short notice, it makes it a little bit of a taller order. But Charles Johnson getting that Scottish twister in the third round, that was just a thing of beauty. I mean, you'll have to see it. And Charles Johnson is just such a great representative of the sport. Afterwards, giving a shout out to his previous opponent or scheduled opponent, Jose Ochoa, and shoot the box for the unfortunate loss of Alan Nascimento recently. So I thought that was and he had been doing it all fight week as well. I just think he's a great representative of the sport, and I'm happy to see him. He told me after the fight when I interviewed him that I think his average time between fights is now 91 days. He's like the most active fighter in the UFC right now, and probably since he joined the UFC is the most active fighter. So it's really great to see him continue to just be a tough out for anybody in the flyweight division, which is already a very fun division.
Yeah, I love to see it, man. Someone being active is what we need in the UFC right now. Let's just quickly also mention Edson Barbosa. He finishes it up. Pretty epic legacy. I think a lot of the new fans maybe didn't really get a chance to see him at his prime, but at his prime, maybe this guy was an absolute machine and provided so many great moments for the fans. He says goodbye tonight. Pretty incredible run.
Yeah, Edson has been one of my favorite fighters to watch for was like a decade and a half. It feels like. I mean, when he came on the scene and he was throwing those kicks and landing those crazy leg kicks,
Dude.
he was in all those great lightweight wars also with guys like Justin Gaethje. They put him up against Khabib. I remember, like they put the toughest guys in front of this dude, and he always put on a show, especially if it was a good stand up matchup. Then he moved down to 45 and he still looked good. Came back to 55, and I think maybe it was one fight too many tonight. Like I think in an ordinary fight, when that fight was stopped, you'd be like, well, that was an early stoppage. Nobody felt that way tonight because I think that the amount of damage that Edson has taken, it was enough. And but I've loved covering Edson. He's a class act, nice guy, good family man, and I wish him all the best going forward. But I think that we should all be grateful for the incredible moments in the cage that he's given us over this kind of time, over his tenure.
Dude, how's this run for a win streak? Of course, a lot of new fans maybe missed this, but wins over Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, and Beneil Dariush all back to back. This was in 2016, spanning into 2017. You get one win over someone like that, you'd be laughing. This guy's got wins over them, and then also wins over people like Paul Felder, Bobby Green, Evan Dunham, Danny Castillo. Man, so many great names, and of course Dan Hooker. That was a crazy fight.
That was a crazy fight. That was like Dan was like a zombie in that fight. Kept walking forward and just it was like he kept getting shot in the head over and just kept coming back and walking towards them, and Edson just kept hitting him and throwing the kitchen sink at him.
Tough as nails. So congratulations to him on a crazy career. By the way, speaking of OGs, dude, what about Neil Magny by the way, 39 years old, if you don't mind, picking up another win and keeping things running for himself, by the way, with the TKO as well. Neil Magny's just refusing to go away, AB. And I got to say, every time I see this guy fight and every time I see this guy win, it just kind of brings a smile to my face. I met him in Perth. He's just such a nice dude. Told me that he's still hanging in there with the young guys in the gym. Feels like he still has something to offer. Of course, there's a bit of money in the pocket as well because he's been around for so long. But what was your reaction seeing let the dream go on for a little bit longer for Neil Magny?
Yeah. I mean, you look at the stats in the welterweight division historically, and he's got all kinds of records.
Crazy records.
Yeah. He's had, I think he has the most cage time in welterweight history by like 2 hours over the next guy. Like that's how much cage time this guy's had. He's always been fun to watch. he's really hard, really tough out for anybody, and that's why this was a great matchup. Like I felt like Ramiz had to put him out early because the longer the fight went on, and then Magny hung around, he would just remain dangerous throughout. Um, but yeah, you got to give this guy kudos. He's just had so many great fights and just keeps hanging around. And I'm happy for him. He's, like you mentioned, super nice guy and someone who's just always game.
Yeah, dude. And this is another guy that's got really good victories as well. If you guys go through this record, I mean, put aside the fact that he's actually got a victory over Mike Malott, who's kind of like the guy now. He's beaten guys like Hector Lombard, Kelvin Gastelum, Eric Silva. If you look through the guy's record, Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit, Robbie Lawler, like the names sprinkled through this record, you're like, damn, dude. So was never able to get a title run per se, AB, but he's in this Legends run that Jamila's on, and I think these guys are really great, especially for some of these smaller cards. You could throw them on the main card and everybody loves seeing them do their thing. All right, before we wrap up, announcement, of course, UFC 333 announced during the broadcast. Here's the main card right here. Bit of a banger card right here. I'm not hating this Arnold Allen Aaron Pico fight at all, AB. We've stuck Alexander Volkov on there. Lona Kavanagh's on there. But of course, Piotr Jan gets the rematch with Merab, and the big main event we've been waiting for in the division is Alex Volkanovski finally fighting Mosar and putting this whole thing to rest to see who the great person in the division is. Your reaction to the fight's finally being announced. It's kind of like a badly kept secret. We knew it was happening. But regardless, a great fight card coming up at UFC 333.
Yeah, I really like that fight card. It's a good main card. I mean, that's a fantastic doubleheader. That's probably the best 1-2 title shot banger of the year in terms of cards that are headlined with 2 title fights outside of the White House card, of course. But yeah, that's a really great card for Abu Dhabi in October.
And Dominic Reyes on there against Azamat as well.
Yeah. They announced some of the prelim fights too. Lots of good ones. That Pico versus Arnold Allen fight's going to be awesome.
Woo!
I'm looking forward to that. And the Volkov against Kuniev is an interesting one. So there's a lot to like about this card. And then Lonnie Kavanagh, that's a good fight. So it's cool. It's good. I think really exciting card. I'm excited to see how those 2 main event, like how those 2 title fights play out. Like I almost feel like Merab versus Jan is the bigger fight, even though it's the co-main event. So it's just cool to see.
I think it's one of those situations where I think Alex Volkanovski is going to beat Mosa. And when he does, I think that it kind of moves things along in the division a little, AB, because Mosa totally deserves his title shot. And I'm very curious to see what his game plan is going to be against Volk. But at the same time, it's like even on the same card, I love how they have the Arnold Allen Aaron Pico fight, right? Like perfect. That's what I love. Like put a couple of potential guys on there that might be able to do it. And of course, Jean Silva, he's fighting as well. That's Noche, right? He's fighting.
Noche against Yair Rodriguez.
Yair Rodriguez. Dude, if he beats Yair Rodriguez, obviously and then I don't know what's happening with, Aljamain Sterling and stuff like that. But regardless, Alex Volkanovski wants to fight all of them. All of them.
Sterling might be next in line for a title fight. If he beats Zabloyev, I would see a world where Sterling gets the next title shot. That'd be like kind of a legend versus legend type fight.
Dude, I would love it. I just want to see Alex stay active. He wants to fight all the time. If he comes out unscathed after Mosa, let's make the most of this run before he retires and make it happen. All right, finally, before I let you go, I know it's late over there. UFC 331, that's the next pay-per-view for us to look forward to. Can I just say, AB, I really enjoyed the UFC 331 press conference. Didn't think I would. Wasn't exactly enamored by the personalities up on stage outside of Arman Sarukian. Bro, I didn't know like Joshua Van had this much to say to Pantoja, right? This went from a fantastic banger of a fight to now having a little bit of that heat and appeal that you want in the kitchen when the Michelin star meal is being prepared. What was your reaction to the fact that Van and Pantoja is now even more exciting for a lot of the fans who don't even realize what they're in for? And also Arman Sarukian and Rufy, man, this is a pretty cool card, UFC 331.
Yeah, it's a great dynamic that Van and Pantoja have. I mean, since Van became champion, like there's a chip on this guy's shoulder that you can see from outer space. I mean, it's been great to see him having this kind of attitude. But it's like, when you think about it from a Pantoja standpoint, like Pantoja's a super nice, super respectful guy, and it takes a while. Like, it takes a lot to get him going. You got this guy who's closer in age to his son than he is to him, talking about him like he's nothing, and dropping lines on him and swearing and like just being all like aggressive to him. Like, that's gonna piss off a guy like Pantoja, who is just a veteran of the sport, is like just a gentleman to everybody, and like this young whippersnappers coming around and acting like they're the real champ, when everybody, at least Pantoja, believes like it was just a fluke injury, and he's walking around like he's like the king of the division now. Like, that's getting Pantoja fired up, and that's going to be an interesting fight week. It's only like 4 weeks away too. So,
dude, it's going to be crazy. And
Yeah.
Pantoja has had such a fantastic run, and this kid's just shitting all over him. He's just, but
Seething.
like chomping at the bit to make it happen. And by the way, for those that don't realize it, actually a banger card. Gable Stevenson on the prelim card. Chito Vera, Tai Tuivasa welcomes Rebellas back in there, and you even got a lot of familiar names all the way through here. Even early prelims, you got Giga there, you got Casey O'Neill. This is a lot of fun to be had, AB. I know 330 maybe felt a little bit flat because we knew what we were coming up against. It was still a fantastic main event for those who really love the sport, but 331 seems to have a bit more heat to it.
Yeah, that's 331. I actually love that Arman and Hoofy fight also.
Yeah.
I think that fight is going to be really interesting, especially since it's a 5-round fight. But and then, like you said, like from top to bottom, there's a lot to like on this card. And Moicano against Ortega too. Like, it's a fun fight.
Dude, come on, let's go. This is fun. All right, UFC. It looks like we've set up a few fun fights to look forward to. I'm going to let you go, AB. You've got a big flight back home tomorrow. As I wrap up, what's cooking up? What are you working on? What do we need to keep an eye open for? Unfortunately, no belt coming back to Canada. I do apologize, AB.
Yeah, I think that's like the 5th Canadian female to fall short.
Sorry,
we've had Valerie Letourneau, Alexis Davis, Felicia Spencer. We have Gillian now, and I think there's one other one that I'm missing. Maybe even 2
Mark
others that I'm missing. No, I'm talking females. Yeah, just females.
Just females.
There's definitely one more that I'm forgetting that like fought for. It's going to bother me now, but yeah, it's been unfortunate to see these Canadian girls get good opportunities, and unfortunately it doesn't work out. But I think that the better fighter won tonight, unfortunately, and hopefully Gillian will be back. But yeah, in terms of what we've got going on, just chugging along. More fight weeks up ahead, more interviews to do. I think I'm talking to RDR next week, which you might be also. I know you and RDR get some good interviews together, so we'll see how that all goes.
By the way, man, one of my favorite performances was Dean Thomas trying to get things cooking in the kitchen, right? I think he said he's retiring from cornering fighters.
Retiring from coaching.
Tonight.
Yeah.
He shouldn't. He's such a great coach.
He was backstage afterwards, and I didn't even make eye contact with him. He looked so mad. I'm thinking that something must have just gone really wrong with the game plan. And that, and they were also, did you see during the fight, they showed like, here's Gillian Robertson's corner, and they were just dead silent. Like, it was unfortunate. I feel like there must have been some sort of disconnect between the fighter and her coaches tonight.
He tried to get it going, man. I mean, he did everything he could, but
yeah.
Regardless, Dean Thomas, a very successful coach. So I hope he doesn't retire from that as well. All right, AB, tradition-wise, let's do it. The big wrap-up. The floor is yours. Let's wrap this up for the people.
Well, Dennis, I've got nothing but brotherly love for you. And from the city of brotherly love, it's been a fantastic fight week. Hopefully, the UFC comes back again sometime soon so I can enjoy some more cheesesteaks. But until then, this has been Submission Radio. For Dennis Shuratov, I'm Aaron Bronstetter, saying goodbye. And until next time, keep it real.
Adrian.
Adrian.